Hey, I'm Shelly,
And I'm Angela,
and this is Real Talk Dating Exposed.
where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of dating in your 40s.
If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like us below.
And if you're listening to us on audio, please subscribe as well.
Now let's get into it.
All right. So this is going to be a good topic. We're going to talk about sex.
Let's talk about sex.
When to have it. Do you have a conversation before you have sex? Does sex change the dynamic in a relationship?
Do you get more emotionally attached?
So many things. So let's just start with.
I feel like you and I are very different on this front. Mom, I
Yeah.
hope you're not watching this one. I know she watches them all, but
Mom,
I'm going to be transparent. Yeah. I mean, where do we start?
So let's start with
Sex on a first date. Let's start there.
yes or no.
I mean, yes, I have multiple times, but I think that goes around. Gosh, I think it's all a reflection of how you feel about yourself and how you can view sex and like whether or not what intentions you have behind it. So might get slack for this, but I feel like I'm like a dude where I can remove my emotion from the sex, and it doesn't mean I'm just doing it whatever. But if I'm having a good time with someone and we connect, then I have no problem doing that. But it's not because I'm looking to like, oh, I hope this brings us closer, or I worry that it's gonna make me more attached. So this is where you and I differ.
Yeah.
I just don't. Do I think progressively having sex with someone that I'm interested in, when it turns into like sex versus like quote unquote making love, which I hate that term. I mean, does it create more of a connection over time? 100%. I'm just in the land where I don't think it's a tool, or it doesn't emotionally hijack me where I'm like, oh my God, I had sex with that person and this didn't work out. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, no, we had a good time. We had a good experience. It felt good. We were safe, for anyone wondering, like in that moment, then why not? You know, I think women get more slack than men for if they want to act like they're sexual. And I'm like, we're in our 40s. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And I will preface by saying I don't have sex with everyone I go on a first date with. Like, that is few and far between, and that's not the truth. Has it happened?
Yeah.
In all my years, absolutely. And there's definitely been dudes that I was like, wow, I wish that didn't I look back because I was like, it didn't work out, or I found out they were super douchey. But it's also a decision I'm making. So then I just chalk it up to like, well, maybe wish I didn't have sex with that one, but I don't lose sleep over it, So that's where I stand.
That's where
on
you
that
and
topic.
I are different. And like,
you are on the other end.
To be clear, there's no wrong or right here. Like, no judgment casted between obviously you and me and anybody else. Like, I think to your point is you get to an age where you're like, this is fun. I like this. I'm confident in my decision. And in your situation, like, you can confidently say you didn't walk away from those situations feeling less than because it didn't work out, right? Where someone like me, I look at sex as like, there's so many things that go into sex for me, but for me, I would look back on a situation and be like, okay, if I had sex with that guy on the first date and like we didn't talk the following day or ever again,
how would you feel?
I would feel bad. Yeah. I would be like, I wish I didn't do that, because for me, I look at as sex intimacy as like another form to connect with a human.
For sure.
And period.
Yeah.
And so I do get emotionally attached. I am very conscious of when I choose to incorporate that, because I know that about myself. So I think this goes back to like just understanding yourself and understanding your feelings and emotions around it, and making decisions based off of that, right?
Agree.
Like,
there's no right or wrong, right? Like, no. I think also your past walks can maybe influence your past relationships with men in your life, or just relationally can trigger or influence the way you feel around it moving forward, right?
Yeah.
And there isn't a right or wrong, and there's no judgment. I mean, I'm sure I'll get judged, but I don't think you should. Like, I think regardless, we're all human, right? So we do what feels good for us. I think if I made a decision at some point to do something and I was like, wow, that didn't feel good, I'm not going to do it again, then I wouldn't do it again.
Then you wouldn't keep doing it. Do you think having sex with someone on like the first night prevents that person, that man, or that relationship from moving forward? Like, have you ever had sex with someone on the first date that's turned into a relationship?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't feel like it was like a deterrent or...
No, so you're saying, do you feel like if you do that, then they're getting what they want, so then it's just like... Yeah. Do you feel like sometimes men, and I do think this happens, where they may judge you for doing that, so then they put you in a bucket of like they take you out of the wifey bucket because you were willing to do that?
Yeah, maybe. I've talked to men where they're like, if I have sex with a woman on the first date, like they will sit there and wonder like, how many other men have you had that experience with? Which again, it's in the past. It doesn't matter.
But at the same time, like they're the ones doing it too. It's just a double standard, right? Yeah. And I don't know. I'm at an age where I'm like, if you don't know my character and if we're really connected and I feel like there's something there, I don't feel like halting. If we happen to get into like a physical, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to be an altercation, but like experience with each other after a date. Altercation would not be a good thing after a first date.
But if you're getting entanglement,
a physical entanglement in a good way. Like say you end up going back to someone's house and you have another glass of wine and then things progress. I'm just in the land of not halting something because my moral compass is like, we are not doing this night one. If it feels right in that moment and I'm fucking rolling with it. You know,
so you don't,
and it doesn't mean, and that's few and far between. Like no one comes back to my house. Like I don't do that. Like I'm a hard sell on a first date. So I guess it's not common that this happens, but for some reason, someone's triggering me to be like, we are vibing and it ends up leading there. I don't leave the date thinking like, oh, we're going to go home and have sex tonight. But if it ends up happening, there's a reason why I'm open to it.
Yeah, you're open to it.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily halting the other person from thinking this could progress into something. Like I've never had that experience from it, I guess, where I did it and then they were like, oh, you are not wifey material. Like we're not going to date anymore. I've never had that happen.
So you don't think that it would change the dynamic because you're able to just kind of like look at it as two different things?
No, I don't. At least it doesn't change the dynamic for me. And I've never experienced it changing the dynamic from a men's point of view where they were like, oh, that just happened. Now, like, I got you on wraps. I'm not going to try anymore. Like, but I think that stuff can kind of happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, to flip it, like, how do you feel like it changes the dynamic?
So for me,
have you ever had one?
What?
A one night stand?
No.
Okay. Mm-mm. And I'm assuming you wouldn't.
I mean, never say never, but like it doesn't appeal to me because I know myself well enough to know that I would more than likely walk away from that situation not feeling good.
For sure.
Because it does change the dynamic for me. Like if I have sex with someone, it's more or less like, okay, what does this look like going forward? Like, are you having sex with other women? Like, does this mean it's just you and me? There's just so many questions that I have when it comes to that. And I know that about myself. So I know the sooner that I have sex with someone, I'm almost like progressing that conversation with someone, which is not what I want to progress. Like I don't want to speed up the process. I don't want to speed up the process of dating.
Yeah.
And for me,
it does
sex
that.
Does that for me.
And I guess for me, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Yeah. I don't think that the minute, even if I'm dating someone we're dating for a month or so, and then we finally do, like that doesn't change how I'm looking at them.
Yeah.
It's just where we're so different.
Do you think that, so, kind of going back to like some previous podcasts we've done where we've talked about like, we want the depth, we want the man to ask the questions, and we want the man to like get to know us and all of these things. Do you think from the man's perspective, like once they have us in bed, they're just like, okay, we're good. Like there isn't any need for them or any desire for them because men connect differently than women.
Well, I think men connect physically.
Yes.
So the irony is the experiences that I've had with men that when we're dating, and even if it's, I don't know when the time frame is the first time we have sex, but I feel like it makes them feel more connected to us. So I've never had it be where they feel like I have her now, I don't need to try anymore. Or, to me, it's more like that's a lot of men want that. They want a spoon. They want to like connect. I know, like I feel like they do. So to them, because men are more physical creatures, I feel like than women on a regular basis. To me, it's always like if you already have a relationship, it just makes it feel more secure. I've never had it do the opposite.
So my perception and my thought process is like, if I'm in bed with that man too soon, then he feels like he's connecting with me, but he actually isn't because he hasn't taken the time to get to know me and ask the questions and learn about my challenges. So you feel like it stops him from, but then that would halt him from putting the effort in to do that? Maybe not halt him, but give him this false sense of like security, false sense of connection, because it's like.
But then why wouldn't you just dialogue around that? Because wouldn't that be part of your communication?
Yeah, you totally could.
But isn't that being a little presumptuous that you feel like if that happened, that would be like, if A happens, then B is going to happen? Like, how do you know that? Like, have you experienced that?
Yeah. Yeah. In relationships in the past where like we've had sex like too early on.
Yeah.
Earlier than what I'm comfortable with now, let's just say. Or maybe the connection isn't there. Then I'm left feeling like months later, like, you don't even know me.
Yeah.
You don't even know me.
And then it just comes around sex?
Yeah.
Like, do you think
like, I feel like if you lead with the sex part, then like as a man, that's
where they go.
That's just been my experience. I'm not saying every man is the same, but
for sure,
that's where I'm a little bit more conservative when it comes to like incorporating that into a relationship because of my past experiences. And also, I want to have a conversation around like my expectations of that, because I don't want to be intimate with someone and not let them know what they're getting into when it comes to me. Like, just so you know, this is how I feel around sex. Like, it creates a little bit more of an emotional connection for me. And if you're not up for that, or that's not what you want, like, please let me know. Like, I have a conversation around that.
And I love that you're secure enough to do that, right? That's taken a lot of work, because I don't think a lot of people would feel secure enough in themselves to, number one, not only understand that about themselves, but then to be able to convey that to a potential partner across the table that you're not even that you don't know that well. I mean, I just want to give you kudos, because that's a lot of hashtag self-work.
Yeah.
Right there, right? Yeah. But I love having that. Yeah, I just think it comes down to, I mean, at the end of the day, anyone that would have a problem with that isn't your person anyway.
Isn't my person.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think men feel around, like, do you feel like if you rejected sex from them, like, do you think that, like, how do you think men feel around sex versus women? Like, do you feel like they're looking for an emotional connection from it? Do you feel like it's just part of what they expect? Like, what are your feelings?
Yes to all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, again, going back to like, that's where men connect. Not to say that women don't, but I do think men, where like women connect emotionally and then physically, most men connect physically and then emotionally.
For sure.
Right. So then it kind of goes back to, again, my statement of like, it gives them this false sense of security. So without that physical component, does it leave them feeling less desired? Does it leave them feeling like maybe they don't know where they're at but I think there's other ways, that things that I can do. And like, am I affectionate? Like, am I showing my attraction towards them?
Well, it's not all sex, right?
Right.
A lot of things can be emotionally connecting or physically, you know, even stimulating in a lot of ways without physically actually having sex, right?
Yeah. So when do you have the conversation? So, because you and I look at sex differently, like, do you ever have the conversation with someone like, okay, so we're having sex, like, are you having sex with someone else? Or is it more around the conversation of like, okay, we're enjoying this, and so now we're going to be exclusive?
I think I don't think that I have one set way of how I do things. Obviously I don't want to continue to have sex with someone that's having sex with multiple people.
Yeah.
Obviously, and I keep saying this, like, have safe sex, like, practice safe sex. You know what I mean? Like, don't be stupid if that's the route you're going, because I don't have sex with multiple people at one point. So if I'm going to engage in a sexual encounter or experience with someone, I'm going to see that through with that person, or else I'm not having sex with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, sooner than later, probably the first couple of weeks, it would just be like, hey, and this goes down to me kind of pinpointing within the first week or two how I'm feeling about that person. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to things we've talked about earlier in our like other episodes of our podcast, which is, I will say, hey, just so you know, I'm feeling like I'm interested in you. I enjoy you. I want to see where this goes. You're the only person I'm having sex with. I just want to know where you're at. Yeah. So it's not pressure for them not to show up or be authentic with their answer, but I want to know, because at some point I'd say, and to me, maybe it's the first couple of weeks where I'd be like, I don't want to keep doing this if I feel like there's a possibility that you're doing this with someone else. Yeah. So could there be a lapse? I mean, absolutely. You're just starting to get to know each other. They don't know if I am either. You know what I mean? I just don't love any of that for me. But it just goes back to me usually in the first couple of weeks kind of figuring out where I'm at with that person and like what my intentions are. And especially if it's going to be sexual, then we're going to be having a talk about whether they are with anyone else. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not about us being in a relationship, because I'm not saying that. It's more or less like, we want to maybe see where this goes. Yeah. But like, I'm not down with laying down with you if you're laying down with fucking Sally tomorrow. So we're not going to be doing that. We are not going to do that. Now, this leads to another question that I mean to ask you. What if you are dating someone and everything is fucking amazing?
Literally what I was just about to ask you.
Everything's amazing, but your sex is fucking horrible.
I mean, it's a deal breaker.
Is it a deal breaker?
It is a deal breaker.
Do you converse around it before you chop, like, put the fucking line in the sand, or like, I mean.
So I've had this experience.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And tried to have a conversation around more or less like things that
What made it wrong? Yes. So how was it bad? How was it bad? I mean, we'll keep it like PG-13. We don't make these for kids anyway. I check that box on YouTube. Go ahead.
Think about a jackhammer.
is the visuals.
Just start there.
The visuals.
We can just start there. But
okay.
We can just start there. And also, like,
was
guys,
the foreplay good?
No.
Or was there any foreplay?
No. Everything was just bad.
Okay.
Like, we'll just start with, like, everything was just bad. And so then it becomes a point of, like, I don't know how to have a conversation around, like, hey, everything you do is just terrible. So, like, I would make it a point to say things that I do like.
Yeah. Did he think it was good?
Oh, yeah. He was living his best life. He was living
Did he
his
care
best life.
about you? Like,
I think he did.
Yeah.
I don't think this was a situation where it was like he wasn't trying, but then it just comes down to, like, people have sex different ways.
Totally. Well, and what appeals to some may not appeal to all. And there may be, like, he may tickle someone else's pickle.
I'm sure someone will fucking love that, you know? And I'm just like, that is not for me.
Okay.
But sex is such a big part of a relationship. Like, I am only doing that with you. And it's a time where, like, I can connect with that person on a completely different level than anyone else.
Totally.
So if it's bad, then yeah, it's a deal breaker.
But
and
if you're literally connected in every other way.
I don't think you can, yeah.
Like, I have a hard time believing if you were literally like, oh my God, I'm vibing with this human so much.
But, like, I don't want to be in bed with him. Like,
Yeah.
I fall asleep on the couch, please.
Yeah.
Let's watch show.
Yeah.
Can we watch a show? So,
But
like,
you feel
I
like you
have
did
to
every
avoid that?
necessary dialogue. Like, you would do every necessary dialogue with that person
Yeah,
before
I would
you
try
would
to have
just
a conversation around it. But I also don't think that, like, you can teach someone how to move their body. Like, also because I don't have that.
I mean, you can.
I mean, I don't know. I just think, I mean, yes, if the sex is bad, like, the relationship is not going anywhere for me.
you. Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's probably true for everyone.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
that
do you
is
feel
just
like
not-
it's the other? Have you ever had it the other way where you're dating someone and the sex is so good, but, like, the flags are maybe waving in other ways, but you're just so mesmerized by the sex that you're like, I'm fucking here for this?
No, but that's where you and I are different. Because
Yeah.
I feel like it's not about
No, to
that
you it's
for
not.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
I mean, have you had to talk someone through bad sex?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, no. I feel like I can't say yes. I think my biggest thing is if it's someone I'm dating for sure, which obviously that's who I would be having sex with, right? If I don't feel like we're connecting where I feel like if they're just trying to, like, bang it out and there's no, like, connection emotionally that they're trying to have with me, that to me is more of, it's just, I think flags come out in sex more than me being like, holy shit, I'm tapping out. This is fucking horrible. So I don't think, you know what I mean? To me, it's just more of a, like, are you able to connect? Which I feel like could be just as much of a deal breaker for me if I feel like physically we're not connecting on a deeper level and it's just sex.
Yeah. Like, they're more worried about themselves and, like, getting
Yeah,
off
and then just
like,
not even like making, you know, when you feel like there's an exchange of like where they're trying to make this deepen our relationship versus like we're just trying to have sex, which I feel like could be talked through. But I also, to me, sometimes it makes me feel like it shows their emotional availability can come out via sex.
Yeah. Like, do they have a blank stare?
Yes.
Like,
or is it just like trying to, where you're like, oh, we're just trying to like, I mean, there's so many things without going into so many things, you know, about where you could just kind of be like, wow, don't really feel connected here. Don't feel like you're connecting to me here.
Yeah.
And I don't love that, you know? So I don't know if I could ever say like, I had to tap out because it was so bad. Yeah. But I think it's more or less, are you able to connect with me on that level? And if you're not, like, I don't love that. Yeah. But I'm talking like we're getting invested into like a relationship now, you know?
Does size matter?
I mean, I'm going to say no.
But too big?
Yeah. I feel like either way you go, there's ways to work. There's ways to work around it.
Yeah.
I do feel that way. But also like, oh my God, this is weird. I'm tiny. So like, I'm just a tiny girl. I feel like you're of bigger stature. Like maybe that would change something. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. But for me, I feel I've never been like, oh my goodness, that's too small, or oh my goodness, that's too big to like work with in some capacity. I mean, how do you feel?
I'd rather have smaller than bigger.
Yeah.
I think there is something going back to jackhammer. It was just like,
well, then if it's painful,
then it was just, I mean, it was a lot of that, you know, and but I think that again, if he knew what he was doing, the size he could have worked with it, right? But it's like I feel like some guys are just like animalistic and like.
Well, I think what guys fail to realize too is that there's plenty of like actually most women are going to get the most pleasure, like not from you penetrating.
Yeah,
them.
and we've
not
talked
to
about
give a
this
sex
before.
lesson right
yeah,
now,
we've
but
talked
like
about this before. We're like most women don't have an orgasm with penetration.
sex. No, I feel like
yeah.
like the foreplay and there's so many other things.
Yeah.
So like whether you're tiny or like XXL, like I mean. There's ways to work with that, I feel like. You know what I mean? And still pleasure the woman. So I think, again, it goes just kind of back to like, wouldn't it be nice if a guy asks, which has happened, but not often enough in my dating history, is like, what do you like? What gets you off? What turns you on?
Yeah.
Like, I love when a guy asks me that because I'm like, holy shit, they actually like care.
Yeah.
Versus just like, you know, I'm going to give it to you good up. Then you realize the dudes that say that are the ones that are just worried about themselves anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
And like the worst in ways.
Yeah. So you'd rather have small than.
I'd rather have small than big. But again, like whether you're small, medium, large, like size doesn't matter is the
Yeah, I want to say it doesn't.
It's just more or less like, what do you do with it?
Yeah.
You know?
So then also with the sex talk, like how often, I feel like this could be a point of contention between men and women and relationships is like how much a woman wants it versus how much a man wants it. And like, what are your thoughts around that?
I've asked guys that I've dated, like, what is your ideal amount of times to have sex a week?
And what was the consensus? Did it vary?
It definitely varies. But I think it's important to know, like one was like every day. Like if you're my person and that's the one thing we can do, I want to have sex every day. And I'm just like, oh boy,
that's aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more like 3 to 5 times a week. Like it doesn't have to be every day. And like, if it's only 3 times, okay, great. If it's every day, okay, great. But like, I wouldn't want sex every day.
Yeah.
You know, but
I don't know in what land. Yeah. I mean,
I think most men would want to have sex every day.
Men?
I think so. If you gave them the option.
Yeah. I have to agree with that.
Yeah. I want to have sex every day. So then it's just more of an understanding of like, okay, how many times is ideal for you? And like, can we meet in the middle?
Totally.
You know?
Well, I'm just in the land of this. Like, you can't really put a number on it. I just think it's like, if you lay down and like one of them, like if you had a long day and he's wanting it and you're not, like you want him to respect that. Like how that leads to another point. Like, do you feel like he should respect that? Or do you feel like I'm not really feeling it, but I'll do it for him? I feel like it should be able to go either way without someone getting annoyed. And I think when men get annoyed, if you're not going to give it to them, that's like a huge fucking red flag.
Yeah. It's like an insecurity, like lack of compassion. Like, can we have a conversation around that? You know, and it's also like, again, going back to like read the room. If I've had a long day and I'm laying in bed, like barely able to like open my eyeballs, like don't try to come at me right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
I also fucking hate when it's like you're sleeping and you wake up to them like grinding on you. You're like, motherfucker, I'm fucking sleeping right now. Like this is not
that is not sexy.
I don't like that.
No.
Maybe there's other women that like that, but I'm like
being woken up that way.
I'm sleeping.
Yeah. Are you like a night girl or a morning?
I mean, I can go either way.
Yeah. See me, I'm like, let's get at it till midnight, but then leave me the F alone when I'm waking up.
Yeah, I could go either way. But like if I had to pick one, I would say probably evening.
Yeah.
But I can go either way. But also like, again, if I have a meeting and I need to be somewhere, like be mindful of that too.
Yeah.
You know,
let's not fuck the work schedule.
It's like, I mean, I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm sleeping. Like you're not going to, at least me, like you're not going to wake me up and me be like, all right, let's go. I don't know what woman loves that for you. If that's what you love.
That's your jam.
Like, yeah, no.
I feel like when you're younger, I don't know. When I was younger, I was a little bit more free spirited, wild in that way. And like, now that we're older, we're a little bit more intentional. I think even in our sex having, I don't know. You know,
I think you have the whole point is like have conversations around it. Like, what's the frequency? What do you like?
Yeah, well, I think that's the hardest thing. And let's call a spade a spade. Like the first time you have sex with someone, like,
is it awkward?
I feel like that's like practice. It's like the warm up.
Yeah.
Right?
Like you're learning how to shake a hand.
Yeah, literally. And you can have the best time with someone, but like it still is just kind of, you don't expect anyone to hit it out of the park. Kind of the first time. I think on either side, you know, like you have to be secure in who you are. But I think the first time's always just going to be a little bit of a dance, just like the date's a dance the first time, right? So like, but I do think what's important is taking that and then, not that you're going to sit down after and be like, let's talk about the sex we just had. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But I think like taking from that and seeing what you like and what you don't, being able to tell that person like,
hey, I really
hey babe,
like
I
that.
actually really love that last night. You know, use that to like foreplay into the next one,
Right.
but use it as a time to communicate what you want and don't want,
100%.
because I think most of the time people that can't connect is because they don't fucking talk about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But normalize the conversation around it.
Agree.
I think is the theme. Whether it's, hey, I'm really attracted to you, but like I don't incorporate sex early on because of
X, Y,
all
and Z.
these reasons, or you know, sex last night was great with you, but I still want to get to know you. Whatever.
Totally.
You know,
Yes.
those conversations. What's the frequency like? If they're doing stuff that you don't like, let them know.
And use protection.
Use protection. Also, tell them the things that you do like.
And no jackhammers.
And no jackhammers.
Ever. Okay. If you guys have any other things to add about our sex talk, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Drop in our comments. But if you aren't following us, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, I mean, where else are we? All audio platforms. We are everywhere. So go give us a follow. And thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching.